Where sea mist meets ancient stone, East Sussex holds stories the daylight cannot explain. Join creepy experience as we step quietly into castles, inns, and churches said to be haunted by memory itself. Pevensey Castle, on the windswept coast of East Sussex, where the marshes blur into the grey line of the sea, stands Pevensey Castle, a fortress older than almost any other still standing in England. Its stones have felt the tread of Romans, Normans, kings, rebels, and prisoners, and some say those footsteps never truly ceased. By daylight, the castle carries a strange quiet. Gulls circling overhead, grasses bending in the sea breeze, and the echo of history beneath every archway. But after sunset, when the landscape darkens and the marsh beyond becomes a formless shadow, the air changes. The silence grows heavy, and something ancient seems to stir. Visitors walking the outer grounds after dusk have reported sudden bursts of sound, the unmistakable clash of steel boots pounding on earth, and the deep-throated roar of men calling orders in battle. Yet when they look across the marshland, there is only mist. Some describe seeing lines of soldiers forming out of the darkness, marching toward the castle. They never reach the gate. They simply fade, as though they were advancing toward a moment-long, finished reenacting a battle that their spirits have not yet realized was lost. Another figure sometimes joins them, a lone drummer, his steady rhythm echoing through the courtyard. The beat is slow, deliberate, ritualistic. The sound stops abruptly if one steps toward it. Then there are the women of the battlements. Some claim to have seen Lady Jane Pelham, who held the castle during siege, while her husband fought elsewhere, her presence proud, watchful, unbroken. Others believe the spectral woman is Queen Joanna of Navarre, accused of witchcraft and imprisoned here long ago. Her figure appears rarely now, but the sense of being observed from above remains for many who wander beneath the walls. Even animals sense what lingers. Dogs are known to refuse the stairway down to the old punishment cell, growling or trembling as though someone unseen stands waiting below. Pevensey Castle is a place where history has not settled into silence. The past walks here, still not with malice, but with memory so strong it echoes through the centuries. Alfriston Clergy House. In the quiet village of Alfriston, where the lanes narrow and the South Downs rise gently around the fields, stands a small timber-framed house with a crooked roof and sunlit garden paths. Alfriston Clergy House looks peaceful, almost storybook in its charm. It was the first property ever saved by the National Trust, cherished as a piece of English rural heritage. Yet behind its whitewashed walls and carved beams, there lingers an atmosphere that some describe as unsettled. The most frequently spoken tale is that of the phantom customs officer, a stern-looking man in a dark coat and heavy boots, a sword hanging at his side. He has been seen inside the house and around the grounds, standing as though on duty. Witnesses say he appears without sound, watching with an expression neither angry nor welcoming, merely waiting. When approached, he does not vanish suddenly. Instead, he seems to fade, as though one is simply losing the ability to see him. Footsteps are often heard along the old wooden floors when the building is empty, measured purposeful like a patrol. At times, there is the unmistakable scent of cigar smoke drifting through rooms where no one has smoked in generations. Objects shift. A chair moved slightly. A drawer left ajar. A door that no one recalls opening. Small things, but persistent enough that staff speak of them with quiet certainty. Yet the most unsettling reports come not from the house, but from the river beyond. There are those who say that on certain evenings, when the water is still a phantom barge, can be seen gliding silently along the river's edge. Voices murmur on its deck, soft conversation, laughter, the clink of glasses. And somewhere in the soundscape, a dog barks, though no animal can be seen. The barge does not ripple the water. It simply moves. And then it is gone. Some believe the customs officer still keeps watch over smuggling routes long since forgotten. Others say the barge carries those who once passed through this house, drawn back by memory rather than haunting. Whatever the truth, Alfriston Clergy House remains a place where the past behaves as though it never left. Alfriston, close to the riverbank, at the edge of Alfriston, surrounded by gardens and trees that move gently with the wind, stands the Alfriston, once known as Dean's Place Hotel. It is a handsome building, warm and inviting to visitors. Yet for more than a century, it has carried a reputation for unusual company, as though those who stayed here in life never quite found a reason to leave. The most frequently told story concerns the young woman in the blue dress. Guests and staff have seen her on the staircase, always in motion, always passing. She does not look startled or lost. She moves with purpose, as though she is late for a meeting that no longer exists. One guest once felt her brush past on the stairs, not a chill, not a flicker, but the full sensation of someone moving beside her. When she turned, there was no one there, only the faint sound of silk. There is also the spectral dog seen outside in the car park and along the adjoining road. Not threatening, not malicious, simply there, walking, waiting. The kind of presence you recognize instantly as a dog, even though no sound of paws touches the gravel. Inside, the hauntings are more varied. In the attic, a figure in a white coat and tall hat has been glimpsed, sometimes bending, as though searching for something, sometimes standing completely still. In the garden, a black shapeless mass has been seen described as a shadow that is too dark to be a shadow, too solid to be imagination. One of the most unsettling reports comes from the old staircase that no longer exists. A second young woman, pale and wide-eyed, was once seen at the top, reacting as though surrounded by flames. No fire was present, no heat, only her silent terror. And then there is the hand, a disembodied hand, gleaming with rings and jewels, seen rising from the darkness and fading slowly, as though descending into something unseen. The Alfriston feels peaceful in daylight, a place for rest and conversation. But when night falls, it is hard to ignore the sense that many stories here did not finish properly, and that their endings still echo softly in the corridors. The Duck Inn, Rottingdean, is a place of sea wind and chalk cliffs where the waves break steadily and old cottages lean gently toward the coast. Among its narrow lanes stands the Duck Inn, a quiet, comfortable public house, with the air of a local meeting place rather than a site of supernatural interest. Yet its haunting is one of the strangest in East Sussex, not because of fear, but because of who the spirit is said to be. For many years, when the building was known as the Rottingdean Club, patrons and staff whispered that the pub was visited by the ghost of Cary Grant, the Hollywood actor famed for his charm and elegance. The rumor seems impossible, even absurd at first telling. Grant lived, traveled and worked far from this small coastal village, but the story persisted, strengthened by multiple reports that shared the same quiet detail: a tall, well-dressed man seen standing alone, hands in his pockets, watching the room with a calm expression. Witnesses never heard him speak. They describe only a presence, as though someone real was standing in the corner, observing, listening, waiting for a cue that never came. One evening, a barman closing up for the night noticed a figure in a dark suit sitting with perfect stillness in the far corner. Believing he had missed a customer, He approached only to find the chair empty, yet the cushion still showed the impression of weight. The air smelled faintly of cologne. Others have seen a shadow cross the landing when no one else was near. A glass has been known to shift across a polished table smoothly and with purpose, as though someone had placed it there and simply forgotten to pick it up again. Doors open slightly, not with force, but with the soft certainty of someone familiar with the space. And perhaps that is the heart of the haunting, not fear, not unfinished business, but attachment. The Duck Inn has seen decades of performance, conversation, laughter, and quiet moments shared in low lamplight. If these sightings are to be believed, then perhaps some spirits return not to mourn, but to remember, drawn to the places where they once felt at ease, even if the living world has moved on without them. Brighton Rocks, in one of Brighton's narrow side streets, where the sea air drifts between terraced buildings and the lamplight pools softly on the pavement, stands Brighton Rocks, once known as the Battle of Waterloo. Its walls have held music, conversation, and laughter for more than a century. But beneath that ordinary warmth lies a story that reaches back to a time of coaching roads, highwaymen, and sudden violence. Local legend speaks of a coachman killed while on his journey to the inn. The tale begins with a carriage traveling through Brighton, carrying a mayor and his daughter along with their driver. On the road, they were ambushed by a highwayman, one of the many who once preyed on travelers moving between the coast and London. The coachman resisted. He tried to defend those in his care. For his courage, he was killed. The mayor, too, was murdered. And the mayor's daughter, so the story claims, was taken her fate uncertain and unrecorded. The crime left a wound that lingered far longer than the names of the living who participated in it. Ever since, the coachman is said to haunt the pub. He appears sometimes as a figure in the corner, motionless, as though waiting for instructions. At other times, he is heard, rather than seen, the rhythmic clink of harness metal, the low groan of leather tack, the heavy tread of boots on wooden floorboards. One staff member, locking up late, heard the unmistakable sound of hooves and wheels outside, though the street was empty. The most striking reports describe his presence near the staircase, where the temperature drops not with a chill, but with a hollow stillness, like the air has been drained of warmth and life. Some people feel that if they stood still long enough, they might hear a voice calling from far away. Not cruel, not angry, just tired. No one speaks of fear here, only unfinished duty. The coachman seems not to seek vengeance or attention. He seems only to be waiting for a journey that was never completed, for a passenger who never reached her destination, for a road that no longer exists. Old Police Cells Museum. Beneath the town hall in Brighton, far below the bright square and the sound of passing traffic, lies a warren of old police cells. The walls are thick, the corridors narrow, and the air carries a stillness that feels older than the stone itself. These rooms have seen grief, anger, regret, and silence, and some say they have held on to the memory of one man in particular. His name was Henry Solomon, once Chief Constable of Brighton. History records that he was attacked and killed in these very cells while questioning a suspected thief. His death was sudden, shocking, and deeply mourned, but the story did not end there. Visitors to the museum speak of a presence in the basement, a shadowed figure that moves softly as though inspecting, observing, continuing his work. Those who see him say he appears to be searching, perhaps for answers, perhaps for peace. He is never violent, never threatening, only present. Staff who have spent time alone in the lower corridor describe the unmistakable sensation of being watched, not with hostility, but with attention. The feeling grows stronger near the old cell doors, where the air turns noticeably colder. Footsteps are heard often, not hurried, not wandering, just walking a steady patrol. On one occasion, a volunteer guiding a small group paused mid-sentence. She had felt a hand, firm, steady rest, briefly on her shoulder. When she turned, the nearest visitor was several feet away. The group noticed the change in her expression at once, though she chose not to explain until the tour had ended. Above the cells, in the halls of the town hall building itself, there are whispers of a second presence, a monk in dark robes moving silently along the upper floor. Some believe he is connected to the land itself, long before the town hall was ever raised. Others think he is drawn to the grief fixed forever below. The old police cells are not loud with haunting. Their silence is the haunting. A silence shaped by duty, unfinished, and words left unspoken. Down here, time feels thinner, and footsteps that should have faded long ago still continue their careful rounds. St. Nicholas of Myra, on a rise above Brighton, where narrow streets fold around one another, and the sea wind carries the cry of gulls. Inland stands the Church of St. Nicholas of Myra. It is the oldest surviving building in the city, its churchyard shaded by ancient yew trees whose roots thread deep into the past. Weddings, burials, and prayers have passed through its doors for centuries. Yet the most whispered stories speak not of those inside, but of something that moves just beyond the walls. They speak of a white horse, not a statue, not a legend softened by time. A horse that moves living in form, but not in substance. Witnesses say it has been seen trotting or galloping through the churchyard at night, pale as mist its hooves, making no sound on the stone paths. Some see it passing swiftly and silently toward the far gate, as though following a route long familiar. Others tell of a rider cloaked indistinct, guiding the horse with a steady hand. Whether the horse travels alone or with its phantom companion, its appearance is always fleeting, a glimpse rather than a sight, like a memory crossing into daylight. But this is not the only presence said to haunt the church. A nun veiled in grey or white has been seen walking among the graves. She does not look at those who witness her. Instead, she moves with the solemn stillness of prayer, head bowed, as though retracing steps once taken long ago. Some believe she belonged to a convent that once stood nearby, her devotion refusing to release her, even in death. Others whisper that she mourns someone buried beneath the yews. The atmosphere here is not one of fear, but of quiet melancholy. Even in daylight, there is a sense of depth of centuries layered gently upon one another. At dusk, when the last light falls behind the rooftops and the churchyard grows dim, the world feels thinner. Visitors who linger often describe a moment in which everything falls silent. No wind, no birds, just the awareness of being seen. Whether by horse rider or nun, no one can say, only that the past walks gently here and the living walk in its shadow. The Southern Bell. In Hove, where the seafront curves gracefully toward Brighton and the air carries salt and music from the promenade, stands the Southern Bell, once known as the Iron Duke Hotel. From the outside, it appears warm and welcoming, a place of theatre conversation and late-night laughter. Yet those who have stayed on its upper floors speak of rooms that do not fall entirely into silence when the lights go out. The most well-known tale centers on a woman who sits at the edge of the bed. Guests have described waking in the small hours of the night to find the mattress dipping under a gentle weight, as though someone has quietly taken a seat beside them. When they raise their eyes, they see a woman in soft, indistinct light. Her back slightly bowed, her hands resting in her lap. She does not turn her head. She does not look at the living. She simply sits, as though keeping watch before fading into the dark. Another presence is said to move near the back stairs, a small girl glimpsed only briefly. Staff have seen her, in the corner of their vision, a quick flicker of pale dress and movement, like a child running to catch up with someone who is no longer there. One cleaner, returning to retrieve forgotten keys, saw the child standing still at the foot of the staircase. The moment their eyes met, she vanished. No sound, no shift of air, only absence. There are also reports of a woman and her dog appearing together in one of the rooms. The dog is always seated at her feet, patient and calm. Some believe this pair were once guests who found comfort here and simply returned to the last place where they felt at peace. Nothing about the Southern Belle's hauntings is violent. Nothing demands fear. Instead, there is a gentle sorrow, like the echo of stories, unfinished people who loved, waited, hoped, and simply stayed. It is said that if you are very still just before sleep fully claims you, you may feel the bed shift slightly beside you, as though someone has come to sit and keep you company just for a while longer. Connaught Theatre, in Worthing near the curve of the coast, where the tide whispers against the shingle, stands the Connaught Theatre. Its facade is elegant and familiar, a place of evening performances, warm lights, and quiet anticipation as audiences take their seats. Yet when the house lights dim and the theatre settles into darkness, some believe another presence takes her place among the living. She is known simply as the Grey Lady. Her appearance varies slightly depending on who tells the story. Sometimes she is dressed in Victorian, mourning black, sometimes in Elizabethan silks, sometimes with the soft curls and gentle lines of the 1930s. But the feeling of her presence is always the same, a stillness, delicate and poised, as though she belongs to the theatre more completely than any actor or audience ever could. Her favorite place is said to be box number 4. Many who have sat there speak of a sudden sensation of being observed, not with threat or sorrow, but with cool curiosity. A shift in the air, a faint impression of perfume, the soft rustle of fabric where no fabric should move. Some have seen her directly, a woman seated perfectly straight, her gaze fixed upon the stage, watching a performance no one else can see. Projectionists, working late, have reported catching sight of her reflected in the glass, even when the box itself was empty. One stage manager, locking up after rehearsal, saw her standing alone in the auditorium, the rows of empty seats stretching out around her. He blinked and she was gone. The stage curtain swayed, though no breeze touched it. No records confirm who she once was. Some say she was an actress who died before her final performance. Others whisper that she was a patron who found in the theatre a place where life felt most vivid and refused to leave it behind. There is no fear here, only longing. A soul drawn back to the moment where the lights dim, the hush falls, and the world becomes story. If you attend a performance at the Connaught glance toward box number 4 only for a moment, you may not see her, but she may be watching you. Quality Textiles. In the town of Littlehampton, in a modest building on a quiet street, stands Quality Textiles, a place of everyday work and ordinary routine. From the outside, it appears unremarkable. A shopfront, a storeroom, an upper floor, once used more frequently than it is now. Yet those who have worked in the building speak in low voices of strange company presences that do not feel like echoes of history, but active watching present. The most frequently mentioned spirit is known simply as Charles. He is seen on the first-floor corridor, where the passage narrows and the light changes slightly. Witnesses describe him not as transparent or misty, but solid, a man, seen from the shoulders up, leaning just around the corner, as though checking who is coming. He does not approach. He does not retreat. He simply watches. And then he is gone. The corridor is also known for its cold spot, not a gentle chill, but a sudden drop in temperature so sharp that some say it feels like stepping into water. The cold moves. It does not remain in one place. Workers have felt it follow them, hovering just behind their back, close enough to raise the hairs on their arms. The building carries other sounds as well. Footsteps overhead in rooms that are empty. A chair dragging slowly across the floor where no one is seated. The faint sound of children laughing and running, light, quick, joyful, and completely out of place. Many believe the laughter belongs to the playful spirits of children who once lived nearby, drawn to the warmth of human activity. But the most unsettling presence is said to reside in the loft. Those who have gone up speak of a pressure not emotional, but physical, like a hand pressing down on the top of the head. Women especially describe it as intense enough to drive them back down the stairs with trembling hands. No history confirms who Charles was, or who the children might be, or why the loft carries such suffocating weight. But the building never feels empty, not in the corridor, not in the storeroom, not in the rooms touched by laughter that has no source. Some places are haunted not by tragedy or sorrow, but simply because someone never stopped lingering. From phantom riders to silent watchers in old corridors, the past lingers softly in East Sussex. If these stories stayed with you, subscribe to Creepy Experience and share your thoughts below. Our journey continues.